So this is a little bit of a thought piece about my process in terms of creating this painting, which is called The Shaman Weeping. I am in touch with a Native American culture now a good deal, because my daughter and my son and my beloved friend and former wife are all very deeply involved in practicing Native American spirituality. And one of the people that's most important to them is the person who leads the teepee ceremonies and the sweat lodges. And there are various people, but the one that's closest to the family is a person by the name of Jerry. And he's really kind of a spiritual guide in certain ways, and in human ways, especially for my son. He's part of the family. And when my son was in a particular series of gatherings over the past 4 years that had to do with his spiritual growth, Jerry, who is the leader of these teepee ceremonies and sweat lodges, came, and I participated and got to know him, but I got to know him a lot better in this last encounter, which was over this past summer. And while we waited for Christopher, who was in the pristine wilderness in Oregon, to think about and fast, no water, no food for a few days, and go inside his soul, we were there to be supportive. Now, at a certain point, I decided I wanted to paint. And this is all new for me because I haven't had time in the past 20 years at all. I've been so occupied with Operation Respect, my nonprofit, and running it and enlarging it. So now we have a new, and I'm talking to you just a week and a half post the election. So everything's changing in any event. But this past summer, there was a lot of stress, of course, in all of us because of what was evolving prior to the election. And it was just magical to be with Jerry and with Christopher in this circumstance in the Oregon area. And there was something inside me I wanted to share, and I needed to do it painting-wise, which I'd just begun to do again. So I took out my charcoal and my and some paper that I brought, and I did a sketch of Jerry. It was quite literal, and it looked like him. And then I took the paints, and these are acrylics, and I painted the inside heart of Jerry. And the first one that I did was very assertive and very direct and very and a much younger version of him. And that was what I felt in his spirit as I was painting it. And then I decided to do this one, which is another version. I may do other versions of The Shaman. And this one, I was reflecting on the desperate plight of Native Americans in the United States, who have been treated with not just the utmost disrespect and cruelty, but also there was a very focused genocidal effort that was perpetrated against them, which is the most comprehensive genocide I know of in terms of wiping out an entire population. And this was not just only the way it was something that was incorporated into a papal edict, the doctrine of discovery, that when you discover a place like America, even though you haven't discovered it, you've just simply discovered that there are indigenous people there. It's up to you to eradicate these heathen cultures and eradicate and eradicate the people, if need be, or convert them. And what ended up happening is the youngsters were plucked out of schools and forbidden to practice their culture or their religion. And the horrors of it have left post-traumatic distress extraordinarily. And right now we're in the midst of Standing Rock, which is a huge outcry of Native Americans for the entire earth in terms of not destroying it with climate abuse, like fracking and the pipelines. And I was there, and I was singing, and very much a part of these kinds of movements. So it was weighing on me what happened here. And so this is a picture of the Shaman grieving. And what I wanted to do was convey something that I felt about what I felt in him. And although I am frequently, I like historically in my painting before and now to use kind of fauve-esque kind of colors and more. It allows me to present a kind of duality that reframes the way in which we look at a face, so that it's not all one thing. In fact, these expressions, and this is always the case, if you look at one eye or the other, you'll see this one, he's looking out of his eye to the side, and it's wary, it's frightened. And the other eye, he's crying. So you have the fear and the pain together here. And his lips, if you look at this, I'll just cover this for a bit. His lips are pursed in pain and in distress. And you see these sneer lines are accentuated, right? And what I like to try to do is to do this with a sense of gesture, so that you feel what I was doing with the brush when I was painting, rather than doing little things that add up to a gestural idea, to the degree that I can get my feeling about this jaw here in this one piece. And then I feel that I'm emotionally connected to how that is. And then this sweep over here on the side of his shoulder, kind of a circle of embrace around him, and then this circle underneath his neck, where it's kind of surrounding this pain that is going through him. And so this gives me a way to express myself, not just in music, but in painting, which I was very much involved in as a kid when I was at the famed school, High School of Music and Art, as an art student, and Art Students League, and I went up to Algonquin, Maine, which was the legacy place of Robert Laurent, who was a sculptor who apparently was also friendly with what's his name? The sculptor of the Thinker. I just went to his museum yesterday. The names fly away from me, but I know him very well, and so do you. Anyhow, that's what I wanted to share, and I don't feel that in song or in life it's good to escape from pain. Yes, there are moments when we want joyousness and gives us relief from it, but it's also part of feeding ourselves to have direct contact with the things that motivate our lives to make it better, and the suffering in the heart, and also the sense that he is not just engaged in his own individual self here, but looking at the whole world is what I feel about Jerry, that he has a vision that's transcendent, and into that transcendence there's a responsibility for me, which I am fortunate to be a part of, which is to try and make the world a less painful place, whether it was in the civil rights movement for African Americans or whether it was to end the Vietnam War. Here are all the thoughts that I have that I thought might accompany somebody who's interested in looking at this painting. And I'm going to try to bring this up closer so you can see the pieces of it even more intimately, because I think it is when you see that, you see the some of the aspects of it that might not otherwise be appreciated, understood, or considered. I don't think of this as great art. I don't think of my music as great art. I think of it as a vernacular expression of something within me that has its own value, and if it has meaning for others, then I'm rewarded, and I know that I am on a long trip with many musicians and artists who have been fortunate enough to connect their vision for making a better world with their direct creative output. So that's the story about this painting called The Shaman Grieving. And I'm glad to be able to share this moment with you.